Hey man, we're back. It's good to be back in this chair with you.
So good.
I mean, I miss Paul, but a big complaint right now is that people can't separate me and you. So for just me and you to be on the podcast right now, actually, I don't know if it's a good idea.
What if I started talking with a little bit of an accent?
What accent would you do?
I told you to be careful. Just like a kind of a singing,
Well,
like up and down.
Okay, we'll talk about like
this and that.
something relevant right now if that with that accent, so I can understand if that's the direction I want you to go.
So my favorite candidate, RFK, is going to possibly drop out of the race.
I don't know if that's an accent or like some type of like brain damage type of voice you're doing there. No, accents are not our specialty. I've actually tried accents a few times. Almost every episode, I feel like
You put on a new one.
I go into a new accent, but they struggle, man. What do you think's the most like beautiful accent? Like, if you had to pick the perfect girl, besides Kelsey, of course, what voice would you put on Kelsey?
Oh, Fargo. North
Oh
Dakota.
yeah, a North Dakota accent.
If she talked like that, she would. Like if Kelsey talked like she was from Fargo, it would make her into a better person.
Alex, I stopped by the supermarket.
She'd want to clean. She'd want to do all these things, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of what she is.
What would she sound like? I went to the supermarket, eh? They don't say eh. No, they kind of do.
You betcha.
You betcha.
Uh-huh.
You betcha, Alex. I love you.
I couldn't even imagine, you know, just the. I mean, I would get home from work and just lock eyes with her and.
Game over.
Yeah.
Fifth child on the way after that. Don't you know?
Yeah.
We go to South Dakota every year to hunt pheasants, and I really enjoy just listening to it's fun to see different cultures and like I like that people sound different in different areas. Because in like Utah, California, we all kind of sound decently similar. I would say like there's not a huge accent. People like can talk like a Kardashian like California, but that's not like an accent.
Yeah, not a real thing.
It's not a real thing. But you go to like Boston, you know, you get the cat back. Liz hates what I did. We went to Boston last year, and I couldn't stop. I could not stop acting like I was freaking Ben Affleck from Good Will Hunting. And she was literally, she had no patience for it.
Yeah, I hate that when she stifles you when you're just trying.
And I was on a roll. Like the cat pack. I couldn't stop.
If you've been on vacation with Zach, you go somewhere and he'll all of a sudden start becoming that person, right? It's a chameleon. His chameleon effect is insane, right? You're in Germany and he's all of a sudden wants to he's got Flight of the Valkyries playing all the time, and he's starting to really delve
Schnitzel
into
for
National
every meal.
Socialism, you know, and just some of the pros and cons.
Yes.
But you know why? Hey, getting back to this, because a lot of people don't understand the Boston accent. And I learned this on a duck tour in Boston. I had the chance. Let me tell this story.
The duck tour is like that main tour that you get on this little boat.
So I'm in Boston at a friend's wedding, and it's at the time when Derek Jeter, who's a very famous baseball player, he was playing his last.
I like how you had to explain that Derek Jeter was a famous baseball player, but you just with the duck tour, you just kind of assumed that everyone.
Well, I'm
going to
get into I'm going to get into the duck tour explanation. So it's Jeter's last game, and it's the day after the wedding, right before our flight, or like just before our flight home. So all my friends that were at the wedding were like, "Hey, let's go to Jeter's last game." And I don't like baseball. I don't like care much for it at all. I haven't followed Jeter's career. I have no business being at Jeter's last game because I've never seen any of Jeter's prior 10,000 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey, I understand that, but my mother really recommended. Shout out to Mom, who's the greatest. She's like, when you're in Boston, you have to do a duck tour, which is when you get on these amphibious vehicles, right? It's like a bus, and then all of a sudden just pulls into the James River there, and you start driving like a boat. It's called a duck tour, and it was awesome. So anyways, I'm on this duck tour while all my friends are at Jeter's last game, and they just talk about how like they all cried, you know, not just so moved by the event. But on the duck tour, we also learned some awesome facts, and here's one of them.
Wait, first of all, though, that Jeter's last game ended epically. He had like the game-winning hit.
Yeah,
it was like the perfect cap off to his career. You were like scarfing like you had some clam chowder.
Well, now he does. The other dude's broke. He does Chrysler commercials. For hell's sake, okay?
He's broke. All right, go on about the duck tour.
So, on the duck tour, the guy was saying, "Hey, all you fads out there of language, you're probably wondering about Boston accents and why they sound so different. So Boston is actually New England. And in English, the reason their accents sound different a lot of times is because they will say R's very softly with almost like say something in a British accent real quick. Like,
car park.
no,
But they don't. That's true. That's still soft.
yeah. So car park, right? They would say it you essentially are saying a very soft R. You're not pronouncing the R very much. You're almost L'ing the R, right? If you want to speak with an English accent. And since New England was primarily English people, right, and very much colonized by English people, that stuck. Whereas the rest of America kind of inherited these German immigrants' version of R, which is a strong R. The Germans say R really strongly, which is how I think the rest of Americans.
I love that fact.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long runway to get there, but
yeah. Well, I thought there were a few fun little stories along the way.
I did. That's awesome. Yeah, Derek Jeter. I do think you should have gone and saw that game while you had the chance.
I
You can tell your kids, like when he's in those car commercials, like, "Hey, I went to his very last game."
Yeah, I live with no regrets. And I also can lie to my kids. That's the awesome thing about having really fun friends. And I found this out as Max gone to junior high, and I'll start telling stories about junior high. And I'm all of a sudden, like you chameleon in these different places, I chameleon into my friend's life. So I'll tell the story as if I was the one who did.
And
it's like I've pulled a fire alarm, or I did this or that. But really, that was my friends who did this.
We tell these same stories over and over throughout the years. You end up like not knowing if you were actually there or not.
Yeah,
most of the time.
You've heard it so many times.
Yeah, you've heard it so many times. I would say like 90% of the time I wasn't there.
Yeah, almost all the time I wasn't there either. I was always scared of getting caught, and so I definitely wasn't in a lot of these places. But I tell my kids like I was there, and they look up to me like I'm the greatest, like most epic Bart Simpson hero of all time. But really, I was more of a Milhouse character, with how I acted.
I was more of a Ralph Wiggum,
Yeah, you were Ralph.
I was totally a Ralph. How often do you go to the dentist? Because right now, this has probably been 2 weeks ago. I broke a filling. My tooth is like cut in half at this point.
Yeah.
And I went in just to like see, and they're like, "Oh, this will be $1,000." So I'm like, I'm out of here. So I just left, and now I'm just chewing with one side of my mouth for the last. No, I said 2 weeks. I was embarrassed to tell you it's been probably 2 months
since this happened.
And so everything's on the left side, and I really want my right side to get some of these shoogies in there.
Yeah,
because they're not tasting what the left side.
Well, your taste buds are going to change on that other side. They might revolt.
They're maybe more refined.
Yeah,
because everything's left, and I'm right-handed, so it doesn't make a ton of sense to chew on my left.
So my wife's a big, dentite, and I'm very anti-dentite. I'm very much a reactionary. I go to the dentist when something happens like this, but I don't stand up and walk out of the chair. It's like, hey, I'm probably due because I haven't.
I didn't cause a scene. I was just like, so how much is this gonna cost Papa Bear here? And yeah,
we got to do a crown, all that stuff.
I don't even know what it is, but you could look back. It's a shell of itself, that tooth back there, and that's an important tooth. It's my very far back one. What do they call that?
Yeah. So what will happen is if you don't crown it, it will get infected, and the nerve will start to hurt a bunch, and then you'll have to have a root canal. Which I just had a root canal not that long ago, and again, this was a reactionary thing because I woke up and my mouth was swollen, and the nerve was infected, but it had actually already died. So I couldn't feel any pain. But typically you're in like a ton of pain, and that's why you need the root canal. Part of why you need the root canal, but mine was just my gum was just swollen, so I knew there was something jacked up in there. But you're paying for a root canal if you do that, and then you have to pay to crown it either way. So
as of right now, I just don't even use that side. So if I don't use it,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not going to give some medical advice here. We're not licensed physicians or dentists, but I would say, you bite the bullet and you get that done, because last thing you need is going septic again. I brought you back to this world. We haven't told realm too many times.
You're right. I didn't tell that story. I was playing basketball and I didn't wear socks or something. I don't know, but the shoe was rubbing against my skin. And the next morning I woke up and I didn't feel really good. I felt kind of crappy, but I thought it was just like the flu or something. This is during COVID time too, so you don't want to go out in public and show that you're sick. but we needed to get a fingerprint for something for work. And so I was driving with my kid. I had a newborn with me. No, he was like 1. This was like, no, it might have been Pepper. I can't remember which one it was. One of the freaks. But we go into to get my fingerprint done, and she starts to do it, and I'm rolling my finger. I'm like, hey, I have to go to the bathroom because I'm ready to either throw up or pass out. I don't know what's going on, but I didn't want to show her I was sick because this is the whole COVID thing. So I go to the bathroom. My kid is walking around this random office hallway, and I just lay on the ground in this bathroom. I don't know if I passed out, but either way, I was just laying there so sick, and I thought I have COVID or I have whatever. And finally, I get like enough little energy to just get out of the bathroom, find my child, finish the fingerprints, and turns out it wasn't the flu at all. I had this infection in my ankle, and I had looked down, and you could see like the blood line coming up my leg, heading to my lymph nodes, whatever those nodes are on kind of by your hip.
Yeah, that can kill you.
Yeah, that's what they told me at the hospital. They're like, we're really glad you came in.
Yeah.
But
I would have brought you back.
No, I wanted to treat it just like I treat my tooth, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to wait until, I mean, it's kind of like you want to be 300ing your body, right? Like, hey, let's just, even if everything's failing, I know like my guys will hold, they'll hold the wall.
That's kind of how I picture my body. But moral of the story is you got to wear socks when you're playing sports, you know? Yeah. That's really what happened to me there.
Well, socks. What kind of socks are you wearing though? Because you're not wearing socks now, so I don't know if
I'm not wearing.
To that
I'm not
story.
also not wearing my basketball shoes, but I haven't learned my lesson 100%.
Yeah.
But now I know I can be treated. So why not take advantage of this great, system we have?
Hey, something I haven't seen in a while is our Costco correspondent.
We got some great news.
What?
He's back.
This is like Christmas.
Oh, yeah, we got to cut to our Costco correspondent. It's been a while.
All right, Z. It is August 18th, and I felt like there was no better time than to get a puffy flannel shirt than right now. Fun fact about the flannel shirt is this is one of the most popular items at the Costco, especially for the fall and winter shopping, so you got to get in front of it. This bad boy right here is only $19. I will tell you, that is a phenomenal deal. This is a gotta-have item. It is clean, it is warm, I am sweating my you-know-what off out here. But I will tell you that for $19, this is a gotta-have item.
Him rocking that flannel, I mean, that's a great deal on a flannel. I mean, it's 100 degrees outside, but...
Well, yeah, and flannel, flannel's like, I mean, it's timeless, really. Like, it never goes out of style, it's always just kind of there.
Yeah.
Because even when you become white collar, which is a great transition from blue collar to white collar, you still want to hold on to those blue collar roots.
You're kind of boxing yourself in as a flannel. People expect a lot from you if you're walking around with flannel. Like they expect, like, hey, you're not seeing a guy in flannel watch somebody else change his tire.
Yeah, or operate a buzzsaw.
But knowing the correspondent as I do, he doesn't make a ton of sense in flannel. He looks good, but like if you're expecting like a guy to come chop down your tree or like work on some electrical or like,
he's posing a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
But no, great. Hell of a deal he found there.
Yeah, and I think for our people out there that can fix things, get over to Costco and just treat yourself. A nice shirt.
I have a hypothetical for you.
Go on.
With Costco, do you think I could survive? Say my monthly membership's paid for. Could I survive with food off of just samples at Costco? So like if I time it, like, I know a certain time of day to give out the sample.
You got to be on Saturdays.
I replenish myself. It's not just Saturdays they do it.
Saturdays and Sundays are the main sample days. I think if you go, maybe afternoons, like later afternoons when their crowds start to pick up, right? Like 5 to 8.
No, hypothetically, I just need to find out their schedule, and I really think I would actually eat pretty well. I could gain weight off of samples because all I have to do is go. I get a sample. I go and just throw on one of their flannels or their clothes, or they're offering like Nike sweatsuits right now.
Well, a lot of people,
and then I just refill.
A lot of people don't know this, but people who operate the samples don't actually work for Costco.
Yeah.
So they work for a separate company that Costco contracts with, or the people selling this stuff.
Well, whoever they are, I can't stand the pressure they give me.
But the reason I say this is when you were looking for something at Costco, you're going to be tempted to ask the sample people because they're there. But they don't actually work for Costco, so it's like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
have some freaking courtesy. And
Yeah.
so I get fired up. I'm a former Costco employee, and no one ever asked me where anything was. They're
Yeah.
always too busy just asking.
Did they give you
sample
a
ratings.
good, pretty decent severance package?
It was, it was better than you'd expect, after my 4 months working there.
Yeah, I think I could actually survive though. I'm scrappy like that.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you, Harv.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Harv.
Costco correspondent. So hopefully he's got a few more next couple weeks because
Yeah.
the well is run dry here at the pod. We need content. We need some
We
of that
do.
content.
Yeah, people, they don't like listening to people sound.
The
who
best
sound
part
alike.
about like every once in a while I'll look at like our numbers, and like graphs you can like see going up and down. The best part is I've never seen it like you can't see any spikes. So it's just we are consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I think people really appreciate our no nonsense approach
Yeah.
to life.
Let's get to today's day in history.
Okay,
And this
give
is
me
an
the date.
interesting one. We're talking 1784.
1784. We are an independent nation, but not yet a constitutional republic. We're we're a federation of states.
This is gonna be a tough one because I don't know if have never even heard of this. I mean, I had, but I didn't know much about it. So 1784. This is the official day that the state of Franklin declared that it wanted to be a state.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of the state of Franklin?
I've heard of this.
So back in the day, like during the Revolutionary War, everyone had their states. We had the 13 colonies. But when we won the war, they kind of extended. So everything kind of stopped at the Appalachian Mountains. So like to the Mississippi. It said to the Mississippi, but like we weren't really over there, except for a few just hardcore. I mean, think of guys that were crossing over the Appalachian Mountains back then.
Yeah,
These frontiersmen, these guys are bearded, flannel wearing badasses, right?
Yeah.
And so they're on the other side. But the state is so big, North Carolina was in a ton of debt at that time. And so they're trying to tax all these people on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains, all these frontiersmen. And so they're pissed off about it. And essentially they say, hey, we want our own state. And in their own state, they had all these like ideas of like, hey, we don't want, one of the rules was you couldn't be rich and be a politician. And so that was one of their
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's hard to govern such a big state, but yeah, I thought it was interesting. And so this guy named John Sevier, who you might have heard of, he was like the head honcho over there. He was like running. He didn't really want to do it, but like he was such a good leader. So there was 3 counties over there, and they became the state of Franklin. It didn't get voted in as a state, like the 14th state. They got like 7 votes. They needed 9. But it was just like a really tough little area to deal with. And, they're fighting Cherokees. I mean, they're just different breed over there.
Yeah, it was. It felt like it was a lot of. You kind of muscled our way to the west. It's like,
And
hey, all these Native American tribes that we've relocated past these Appalachians.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we want that land. We want
want
the
it.
Ohio's. We want we want these little spots.
Well, like they weren't getting representation, so like they're not getting help to fight some of these Cherokee Indians that they wanted. Like technically, it was their area.
Yeah.
So they're not getting help, so they end up like being like, "Hey, we're gonna start our own state with our own ideas." It didn't work out, but John Sevier eventually that area became Tennessee. So like Western North Carolina essentially was like Eastern Tennessee, and that became Tennessee eventually. But just that little area of Franklin. And guess who became the first governor of Tennessee? This John Sevier that was leading this group that wanted to be the state of Franklin.
Yeah.
Look into it more because I don't know a ton about it.
I love that idea.
I do.
Though, of
the Appalachian Mountains, they fascinate me because that was always like no one could get past it. Not only was it mountainous, but you had tons of like Indian tribes out there, and so it was just like the Wild West at that point. So like we claimed the Mississippi all the way to the Mississippi, but like not many people were out there. But a lot of people like didn't like what was going on with the United States at that point. They were in so much debt. North Carolina actually gave that area back to the government, to the United States, because that was like a payment because they were in such debt.
Yeah.
But in return, like I guess the United States wasn't helping them out, so that's what they were like, hey, let's start our own state of Franklin. They named it after Benjamin Franklin, which you think he would have backed him up, but
Yeah, because they weren't the United States back then; they were the Confederate States.
Yeah.
I mean, not like Confederacy, but
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that idea of picking somebody to run that isn't rich, I think it's like a fine idea, I guess. But in reality, people often blame rich people for the problems. But there's this awesome graph that I always like to look at that just shows, like, really rich people who use the government to get rich are like the problem. Other rich people are like good for the economy. But when it's like you're only rich because the government got you rich, that means like you didn't get rich, like the rest of us paid for you to get rich, right? But it would be cool to have like a sword in the stone type scenario for our rulers, right? Like to give power to people who aren't seeking it and who don't want it, I think is the only way to create, to diminish a lot of corruption, diminish a lot of like ego, and actually get problem solved.
Yeah, and I think that's a possibility for something like that if there was less people. There's too many people now. It's too convoluted.
That's what I'm saying. A sword in the stone. How sweet would that be? It's like, hey, we're just gonna throw a random set, and everyone's gonna come up. Like, this is your right of citizenship, right?
Yeah.
We are going to randomly pick our ruler based off of that, right? And everybody has to come and try and pull this sword from the stone.
You're just thinking legit, just put a sword out there, hit a stone.
100%, right? Because you think like
you're like, hey, let God figure it out. God's like, hey, this guy's cool to pull the stone. Let's pull the sword.
Here's a question I would love to. Do you think you would be better off being ruled by just some random person out there or Kamala or Trump?
Random person.
Random person. I think
your chances are probably like, because say the far right, there's 5% of the people in the United States are far right, and 5% are far left. So we have our bipartisans right there. We have like both our parties. I think everyone else falls in between. So you could get somebody leaning left or right, but they're not so radical. Right now we have such like a radical. We have to choose between the not radicals, but like you only have two choices.
Right,
it makes no sense.
Exactly, and I think you'd get somebody who you could even stand the chance of getting somebody who literally like doesn't care about politics, right? Who doesn't like. I think there's a lot of people out there like, man, I just like this problem seems so broken. Like I can't. I'm not gonna pick a side. I don't care about a side. They may lean left or right on different issues, right? But they're not like. And it's like, think of one of those.
Well, they'll end up becoming a puppet at that point. They'll end up.
Well, in this current system, but if the state of Franklin flourishes and eventually conquers its weakened Confederate neighbors.
Yeah, you're right. All this stuff is so much easier with just less people at the beginning when you're establishing something. Like,
no, I'm telling you, even now with more people, I'm gonna set that up. That's what we're gonna do.
You're gonna set up a sword.
We're gonna revive the state of Franklin, and we're gonna do a sword in the stone. Well, you just run it with hey, this computer program is going to pick like a person, and we just have it on TV every day. People are just going up and trying to pull a sword.
We're talking. I actually just prefer just putting an AI as our president.
I love that idea too, but the problem is AI is written by completely biased people, and
I gotta have the person who pulls the sword from the stone have that personality that you're like taking randomness. Put that towards the script of the AI. Ends up being the same thing. But they'll make better decisions as a president. But you get that randomness of like, hey, this is a random person. Because you're saying the right or left's going to write the script of the AI.
The other thing I'm saying
the guy that pulls the sword
is he becomes the AI. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing I really like too is just outsourcing government. Yeah. You know what I mean, like, hey, let's have a bunch of companies compete to run countries, right? And the ones that do the best job of improving a country's economy, lowering their taxes, improving the upward mobility of their poor people, improving healthcare. Yeah. That company's going to start winning contracts to run countries for people. They're not going to be like citizens of a country, so they're not going to be biased or anything like that. They're just going to run it like a business. How freaking sweet would that be?
It'd be awesome. I would love all this stuff to happen. I just don't think we'll get there yet. I think there'll be a time where
that would be like an extremely difficult thing to have happen, because to do that you'd have to be. I mean, people just generally people hate outsiders. Like we, as a species, we hate the outsider. We fear the outsider. We kind of hate the outsider.
Did you read about the new standards that Taliban has?
No.
Oh my gosh, dude! The Taliban's getting hardcore.
Oh, they weren't before.
They have all these. They weren't before. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be kind of weird because all these people are signing up. You know, they must be promising extra wives.
Yeah.
But all these, they've turned away like hundreds and hundreds of people because you know why?
Why?
They can't grow beards.
Oh man.
So they're like, hey, we got to like up our policy. Like all of a sudden they're kicking out all these people that just can't grow a beard.
They're like, yeah, because they're too popular right now. You're saying, so they have to like kind of
I think they just
make it a little more difficult.
Whoever the leader is like, hey, we can't keep accepting all these people that can't grow facial hair. So I'm kind of thinking that might be the perfect tribe to cancel out the Taliban because they're going to be pissed off that they didn't make the gang.
You're saying
And so
like
it's
go in and be like, hey, the beardless, and it's like, hey,
they're carrying bitter feelings towards Taliban.
You got your little patchy and they're not taking you because you might be a little patchy. Then you kind of just, oh man, that sounds awesome. This is what these are the psyops the U.S. needs to run. Instead of we're like, hey, let's go in there for 20 years and replace the Taliban with the Taliban. It's like, no, all you got to do is it's very easy to turn people against each other. All you got to do is just find out what the Taliban wants beards. Let's get the freaking beardless dudes.
Yeah.
There's some tough beardless dudes. Have you ever wrestled somebody who's just got soft face skin?
Liz? No, I picture it like it's like every other origin story where someone's like their whole life they want to join this gang and they're so excited and they show up and they're like, sorry, you can't. I know like your heart's in the right place, but your beard is absolutely not. So they end up starting their own thing. They attack the Taliban. That's my thoughts, at least.
Yeah.
But good for the Taliban to actually have some standards.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you're letting everybody in, then you're no better than America.
You're not an elite. You're not an elite. Oh man, what else is happening?
Hey, I feel like I have to now like put disclaimers. We don't condone the Taliban. We don't condone leaving people out.
I don't know what we condone, but I do. I actually, my heart kind of goes out to some of these guys that wanted to be there and kicked out.
Just for that, right? None of their ideological stuff.
No, just
what it feels
I get kind
like.
of sad just knowing people that want to be in something and they can't quite make the gang.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you can't at least empathize a little bit with that part of it.
Well, you kind of expect life to be like Little Rascals, and in the end, like the He-Man woman haters accept everybody. They got chicks coming in, they got everything.
Not the Taliban.
No.
Dude, your boy RFK, did you ever hear that story? I think this is what
Kill this campaign.
Is why he will not be president.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
He's a little trickster. Have you heard the story about him with the bear?
Yeah. I know the story really well.
Oh my gosh, man. That's clever, but like it's hard to come back from that.
No, it's a very weird freaking
It's the weirdest story ever. If you don't know, it was like behind another car, right? Like with a group of his friends. This is probably like 15 years ago.
It's 10 years ago.
Only 10 years ago?
Know. So he's like a mature 46-year-old.
Is he 56 right now? He looks older than 56.
Yeah, maybe he's a 50-year-old.
He was probably in his 50s.
I'm telling you, he's in his 50s.
This is wild. I respect this, what we're about to tell you, a lot, but it was not if you're planning on being a president. His group in front of him hits a bear, legit kills a bear while driving. And so he claims that he was like picks up the bear to like get meat out of it.
Yeah,
I thought was the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
But he's also like, this is an environmental lawyer.
Yeah.
Who's like done a lot. But to his credit, he's done a lot of things for the environment.
But he also likes tricks. He likes to play tricks on people. So he goes to Station Park and he puts
Central Park.
Central Park. He puts the bear like in where people walk around. This is at night, and he puts a bike over it. So like confuse people, and I think it's kind of funny that like a bear was riding a bike, must have been in a bike accident. Yeah. So now like people have like always wondered, like I think it was like years that no one like knew what happened. I'm sure it was like on the news for like a day, like there was a bear found.
Well, no, that actually was. So this is an interesting turn of events. There was an article written about this, and it was actually the girl who wrote the article is actually RFK's niece, not knowing that her uncle was the trickster.
Oh my gosh, this needs its own documentary.
Yeah, it really does, because it did seem. I mean, not that RFK stood a chance before, but it did single-handedly ruin his credibility. It was like Gary Johnson when back in 2016 was like the Libertarian candidate, and somebody asked him about what he should do in Aleppo. Aleppo's in the Middle East, right? It's like a war zone, and he had no clue what Aleppo was, and so that like single-handed people are like, you can't take him serious. Now, granted, I'm sure if you ask other candidates, a lot of stuff they wouldn't get a lot of answers right.
I think he needs to pivot and really like this is like he'd die on this hill with this bear because I think he gets a lot of like respect from audiences that he's like, hey, I'm willing to like do some funny things.
This is like a frat prank, and like maybe
He's
even
50
early
years,
college
he's in his
frat prank.
50s though.
Yeah.
Is this what now? Like, are supporters of RFK? Is that what they're doing? If you see like a dead deer, you like pick it up,
Yes.
go put a bike
Go put it in
over
a
it, and
funny
be like,
spot.
hey, someone around this neighborhood really.
Y'all got RFK'd.
You got-
know, put some
I
sunglasses
thought
on
that
it.
was nuts, but
Yeah.
especially at that age. But I'm also jealous that he came up with the idea. So if he has ideas like that, you can only imagine when he's
What
the
he could do
president
for the economy.
For the economy,
Yeah.
he's clever. He's
Yeah, no.
he's resourceful.
My love for this guy is single-handedly just because it feels like he's the only candidate talking about how corrupt the CIA is, how corrupt the FBI is.
Yeah,
But he's definitely got some change up. But also, he seems very cool in like very talk. Like you could talk of all the candidates. I think you would have the most fun by a long shot.
Oh, you'd have a heck
hanging
of a
with
time
this dude.
hanging out with him, hitting mailboxes with baseball bats.
Oh, did you see Trump on Theo Vaughn?
Yeah, I saw like one clip, but nothing good.
Yeah, I mean, I know we don't plug other podcasts on here.
What
but
stood out on it?
Yeah, he's like Trump was actually surprisingly like cool, but also like thrown off in like this interview, but like just kind of just like and like seemed like he was enjoying himself for the most part.
Yeah,
Theo's like telling
Theo's
him about
funny.
cocaine and all this stuff. But the most interesting I think take that everyone got out of this is Trump has never smoked or drank, or maybe he's never drank and quit smoking, or one of the two. But
he's never. I know he's never drank. That was what they.
And it was because of his brother. Like his brother dealt with addictions, and his brother made him promise never to do it. And I think maybe his brother's dead now, but I think he was an addict his whole life. I think
Interesting.
But that side was kind of interesting take.
A lot of interesting politics. Kamala Harris, man. Do you know what she reminds me of when I see any like video of her? Is like you were in your elementary school and like those parents that came around a lot. It was always the PTA president.
Yeah.
These moms, and they just wanted to have a little bit of power, and they always had a certain personality to them.
Yeah.
She's just a big PTA president to me.
That's exactly it. She is a PTA president, but you know,
She might just erase the PTA and become prez.
Yeah. She might. You know, I'm not gonna get too far. We'll let Paul come in and speak of the devil.
But anyways, when I see her, I'm like, you remind me of all the PTA presidents at my elementary schools.
Yeah.
Always kind of hyped, very smiley, almost like they're like patronizing kids. Like, hey, like we're very bubbly, we're happy.
Yeah. But in their dark side, you know, they got a dark side. All those PTA ladies
my
have
gosh!
a dark
But you can't be like that and not have some wild side to you.
Now, trust me, Kelsey the other day, she's like, hey, I'm thinking of joining the PTA. Like, it seems like
she
it
really
might be
did?
a cool thing. No, I'm trying to like be a joke.
She would be the worst PTA.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, she'd be great. Are you kidding me? That girl?
No, she'd be terrible at it, dude.
Yeah, she'd hate it.
She would be so bad at that.
Yeah.
Love her, but she's not PTA qualified.
What is she good at?
Oh, everything.
Okay.
She's good at loving my brother. She's taking really good care of you.
She has.
Too bad she'll never hear this from me, and she'll never hear it from my lips.
No, she
But
won't.
if she wants to hear that, she'll have to pop in.
And she would. We're already like minute 20 into this podcast. There's no way she would listen this long to a podcast. So
let's get into some more news here. So, did you hear about this guy over in Japan that's getting prosecuted for kicking? He was in a haunted house, and he's like this professional martial artist, and this ghost who's just doing her job pops out and scares him. He freaking roundhouse kicks this girl, roundhouse kicks, and breaks her jaw. And so now they're just going through some type of lawsuit there.
These are like, I actually feel very empathetic for this dude, because one of my first haunted house experiences that I remember, I was in 6th grade. It was a friend's, David Gary's birthday party. We all go to a haunted house, and there's one of those like polka dot rooms where people are like hiding in the wall. And my buddies are like, that's a person. And I'm like, that is not a person. Like, yeah, that's a person. So I walk up and go to poke this person, this wall, right?
It was
this
a person.
camouflage. Not only was it a person, it was a girl, and I poked her right in her boob.
Really?
And it's a 6th grader, right? It was the first, it was the first boob poke.
Was that lawsuit?
First and last.
That was like your first lawsuit. I remember Dad talking about this, how he had to like protect you then.
Yeah. He's like, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. No, I just remember her saying, hey. And Like for
That was your
lack of a better term, I booked it.
That was your first
Out of there.
boob touch, was assaulting a poor innocent employee at a haunted house.
A freaking
you're
sneaky
just as,
trickster.
You're just as bad as this Japanese guy that roundhouse kicked this woman in the face.
Well, she might have rather kissed me.
For real, that happens quite a bit. Maybe it's more common than we think, because our buddy Marcus, remember that? And we were at Lagoon. We were at
us using his name on here.
No, we could blurp it out, but we were in a haunted house. We were in high school. I don't know what we were doing in a haunted house, a bunch of guys. But some girl jumped out, was just doing her job, getting paid probably $5 an hour at that time. And he just straight up headbutted her. So, whammy. Cock's back. And defense mechanism. That was always his defense mechanism. But after that, she instantly like got on her thing and was like, security, and started freaking out. So we had to kind of smuggle him out of there. Or he would have been on the news just like this Japanese guy.
He definitely has not gone back.
No.
What if it was the same girl? You know?
Oh, that'd be a bad run for her.
Day.
She's just trying to, make a career in haunted houses. Jeez, but like to be a professional martial artist, and he like wound up and whoosh, break your jaw.
Yeah, that's
And you remember
Japan's crazy too. Their judicial system's crazy. Like they'll get you.
They'll get you. Remember those haunted houses growing up where you'd hear like, oh, you sign like a waiver and they're allowed to like physically touch you, like and pull you into things and things like that?
Yeah.
What a weird thing.
Yeah, the waiver.
Super strange.
Touch waiver.
So you're like, yeah, it was
well, that's what Robert.
And who are these strange like employees then that were like, hey, I got to like, I don't understand it. It was
Robert Kraft actually after the massage parlor said, hey, I got a physical touch waiver.
Yeah, guys.
I'm good. Because everything was cool.
I signed the waiver. Yeah, I don't understood it. I don't like haunted houses. I think the people are just kind of strange that work there, but I don't want to alienate too many of our listeners.
Well, have you been to like haunted houses recently?
Probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, how much have they changed?
Yeah,
in
they're
the last 10
not
years?
I mean, maybe with like horror movies, but
people like kicking employees.
Yeah, I did the Haunted Woods is always a really good one. I feel like that one's pretty decent.
Dude, on other news, you big Applebee's guy?
Oh, I love the bees. Our grandparents used to send us Applebee's gift cards every year, which I mean, nothing says I love you more than a freaking trip to the bees. I actually loved it every year. I was like, oh, sweet.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So they were doing a deal. It was like $16.99. You get unlimited food, all you can eat. Yep. $16.99, and so they bring you out like endless, ribs, wings, whatever. So this group just barely was actually the cops had to be called out because they started doing that, but the whole group was eating the thing. So like they would go and get it refilled. So the waiter's like, hey, you gotta like. This isn't just for the whole group. It's for one person that they could eat as much as they want.
Oh, I see. So that one person's like, hey, I'll take that. And everyone's else like, I'm just going to have water. I'm not eating.
Uh-huh.
And then he's just eating.
I don't know. I'm going to look up where this was because it'll make a lot more sense depending on the state it was in. But this is out in, where is this? Indiana. So if that makes you feel any better about the people out there. But anyways, they caused this huge scene. The ladies are freaking out like, hey, we paid for all you can eat. And so I don't care if it's a table. So cops had to be dispatched.
Yeah, it's probably not the last time cops
What do you do as a
dispatched.
cop, though, when you show up? Because, like, I can see where they're coming from. It's a little vague of, like, a discount or a deal. It's like all you can eat.
I mean, I don't feel like this is super vague.
But what are they doing?
I'm thinking, if you go to any all-you-can-eat place, a buffet,
I get that.
You're paying per person, right?
I get that. But if it's just, I bet they were trying to sneak it a little bit. Like, just eat it, and all of a sudden, hey, this person's, like, just gobbling wings like crazy.
Sorry, I'm a little sensitive about this because the Red Lobster did all-you-can-eat shrimp, and now they're out of business, right? Probably because these same morons went and did this,
Man, the Red Lobster. Are you like a chain guy? You got like the Red Lobsters, the Applebee's, the Sizzlers, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I never caught you up on Pull Dark.
Is that you're still watching it?
I'm heavy into Pull Dark, dude. And I have a lot of ideas, but I get that you've never seen it.
When we were talking soft R's, hard R's, you couldn't go into a Pull Dark scene.
Pull Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's the man. Let's end this pod before I get too deaf. Pull Dark.